dying native girl. At sunrise, 70 warriors lined up outside his barn. In the heart of the American frontier, nestled between the hills and dense pine forests, lived a 12-year-old boy named Eli Thompson. He was the son of a humble farmer, raised on hard work, decency, and a deep respect for all life. His family didn't have much, just a weathered barn, a few animals, and enough crops to survive the winter. But what they lacked in wealth, they made up for in heart. One icy November evening, as dusk settled over the frost-covered fields, Eli heard faint cries coming from the woods. Gripping his lantern, he ventured out beyond the fence line. That's when he saw her, a young Native American girl, no older than himself, slumped beneath a tree. Her face was pale, her lips trembling from the cold. Blood stained her clothes, and she clutched her stomach as if holding herself together. Eli didn't hesitate. He took off his own coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. But she was still shaking violently. Without a second thought, he pulled off the thick woolen blanket his mother had made for him and covered her entirely. "I'll get help," he whispered, but the girl weakly grasped his hand. "No, too late," she murmured. "Just warm." She died in his arms minutes later. Eli buried her himself the next morning, under a cedar tree near the edge of the forest. He didn't tell his father. He didn't tell anyone. He just prayed that somehow, somewhere, her spirit had found peace. But the land had been watching, and the land never forgets. The next morning, at sunrise, Eli awoke to a strange sound, the low rumble of horses. He stepped outside barefoot, and what he saw stopped him cold. Lined up in silence across the open field were 70 native warriors on horseback, their faces painted, their expressions unreadable. They said nothing. They made no move toward the house. Then one of them, an older warrior with silver braids and eyes like flint, stepped forward. He carried the very blanket Eli had given the girl. He rode slowly up to the barn and dismounted. Eli's father came running out with a rifle, but the warrior raised a hand. "No harm," he said calmly. "Your boy showed honor. The girl, she was the chief's granddaughter." Eli's breath caught in his chest. She was lost, attacked by men who do not understand peace. We searched for her many days. She died with kindness, your son's kindness. The warrior bowed deeply, placed the folded blanket at Eli's feet, and said, "In our eyes, this is a warrior's gift, a sacred offering." Then, one by one, all 70 warriors bowed their heads toward Eli. No more words were spoken. In solemn silence, they turned their horses and rode back into the woods, vanishing like a dream. Years later, Eli would grow to be a man known across the frontier for his compassion and integrity. He kept that blanket for the rest of his life, not as a symbol of sadness, but of quiet bravery and the power of a single selfless act. And in that town, whenever anyone doubted the strength of kindness, they remembered the boy who gave up his warmth to a dying girl. And 15 years had passed since the morning the warriors honored Eli Thompson. The tale had become legend in the nearby towns, told around campfires, whispered by old-timers, and even taught in Sunday schools. But for Eli, now a young man, the memory was not just a story. It was a part of him. He still lived on the farm, now managing it himself after his father's passing. He worked alone, save for his loyal dog Scout and the worn, folded blanket he kept in a small chest beside his bed. Every winter, when the wind howled and the trees groaned under frost, Eli would place the blanket on the porch rail, facing the woods, a quiet gesture of remembrance for the girl whose name he never knew. But something strange happened on the exact anniversary of her death. That morning, Eli awoke to find an arrow buried in the ground just outside his barn. Not a threatening one, but finely crafted, wrapped in white cloth and sage. Tied to it was a small carved pendant, shaped like a cedar tree, the same kind under which he had buried the girl. Attached was a note written in both English and the native script. "You remembered. So do we. Come to the tree at dusk, alone." Eli didn't hesitate. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, he saddled his horse and rode to the cedar tree. The woods were still, the air thick with anticipation. Then he saw them. Not 70 this time, but just 7 elders, wrapped in ceremonial robes. Behind them stood a young woman, perhaps 19, with a quiet strength in her posture and sharp, familiar eyes. The oldest elder stepped forward. It was the same warrior from all those years ago. He spoke gently. "You honored our blood once. Now we honor you." He gestured to the young woman. She is the sister of the girl you comforted. She is trained to be a healer, and she has chosen to gift you something rare, a story from our side. Then the girl stepped forward and knelt. My sister was the heartbeat of our tribe, she said. When she was lost, we mourned in silence, but your kindness brought her peace. You helped her die with dignity. That is a sacred act in our way. From her pouch, she pulled out a beaded talisman, blue and red, with the image of two hands clasped, one light, one dark. This is for you. You are now part our story. Back at the farm. Eli never told many people what happened that night, but from then on, he kept two things on his porch rail each winter: the blanket and the talisman. And every so often, during the quietest snowfalls, distant riders could be seen at the tree line, watching, remembering, honoring. Because one small act of kindness had rippled far beyond what any young farm boy could imagine. Would you like part three? At Eli's farm, holding the same blanket he once gave away. Decades passed. Eli Thompson, once the boy known for a single act of kindness, had become an old man with a silver beard and stories etched into the lines of his face. The farm was quieter now, the fields not as full, the barn older, the world faster around him. But Eli stayed. He said the land still had one more story to tell. And one snowy afternoon, it arrived. The child. The wind howled across the valley, rattling the windows of Eli's old farmhouse. He was sipping hot tea by the fire when he heard it. A knock on the door. Slow, hesitant. He opened it. There, shivering and wide-eyed, stood a young boy, maybe 7 years old, wrapped in a familiar woolen blanket, the exact same one Eli had once given to the dying native girl so many years ago. The boy looked up. "Are you Eli Thompson?" he asked. Eli knelt down, heart pounding. "I am." The boy pulled a folded note from inside the blanket. The paper was aged, the handwriting delicate. "Dear Eli, you may not remember me, but I remember you. The warmth you gave my sister lives in this child. He is her grandson. His mother died in childbirth. He has no one left, but he has your blanket. He has your heart. And he is ready for a new beginning." Eli's hands trembled. He looked at the boy again, the quiet strength in his eyes, the way he held the blanket like something holy. There was no doubt. This was her family. A new beginning. Eli took the boy in without question. He taught him how to work the fields, how to speak with the trees, how to honor the past while growing into the future. And every winter, they both placed the blanket and talisman on the porch rail together. Two generations of kindness, side by side. People in town whispered again about how the boy came from nowhere, how the blanket came back after vanishing for decades, how Eli looked 10 years younger just days after the boy arrived. But Eli didn't care for rumors. He only smiled and said, "What we give in love never truly leaves us." And the land agreed, because kindness, once planted, always finds its way home. Would you like part four, perhaps a legacy style ending?